Is Donkey Kong Bonanza a must-have killer app that will justify buying an entire new console? For many people, that answer is absolutely yes. But it is not a universal killer app in the same way that games were like Super Mario 64, GoldenEye 007, and Sonic 1. So in part 1 of this video, we're going to start with everything that DK Bonanza gets right. And there's a lot, believe me, that I'm looking at this game with interest. In part 2 of this video, we're going to talk about the things that DK Bonanza gets wrong. And it's not the end of the world, but it's enough to make it not a killer app for some. And finally, in part 3 of this video, I will be delivering open world fanatics their sentencing, which will specify what they need to do in order to ensure that their enthusiasm does not erode and redefine what gamers can expect from a game being marketed as open world. So let's get right into it in part 1, which is what DK Bonanza gets right, which is quite a bit, and I'm gonna give credit to Nintendo right out of the gate. This is a brave game. This is doing something different, new, novel. Unlike Super Mario Wonder, I give this game a lot of credit in the same way I do with Mario Sunshine, because you're providing the player a substantially new mechanic that can be utilized dynamically in all sorts of different levels and scenarios. Digging underground, baby. Interacting with the terrain in any number of ways, and at any time you can press pause and reset the terrain. That way you don't get interminably stuck in a crater that you dug. It's cool to see the beloved applauded terrain mechanic from Tears of the Kingdom make its way into this Mario Universe game. It's as if the Tears of the Kingdom team put the terrain feature on a flash drive and sent it on Dropbox to the production team that made Odyssey, and now they're using that terrain mechanic that Tears of the Kingdom did a lot of the heavy lifting on to make a whole new experience here. And so in other news of things that DK Bonanza gets right, I think it's clear enough at this point that the unsung hero of this game's reveal is of course Rareware. For a while, Nintendo didn't necessarily know what to even do with the Donkey Kong character until Rareware came along and said, "We have an idea. Welcome to DK Bonanza." Cranky Kong is back, baby. And have you ever played a game called Donkey Kong 64? This game is like Donkey Kong 256, if you will. I'm so happy to see more of Rareware's legacy continue to live in these newer games. I just feel bad for Rareware, because where are they? Look, Rareware was hired to do a job, and that's the way it works. I mean, like it or not, Nintendo is within their rights to use the DK rap in the Mario movie without crediting Grant Kirkhope. It brings me no joy to say it, right? I can advocate that people should be credited, but whatever. Rareware crediting unease aside, just the fact that this game is building upon and expanding Rareware-flavored lore, that in itself is enough to make it a killer app. You need to buy a game where there's going to be callbacks and build-upons of classic Rareware tropes within the DK universe, so I am all about that. But guys, part 1 is done. We're going to jump into part 2 of this video now, where we're going to meditate on the things that DK Bonanza has gotten wrong. So let's rip off the band-aid now. This is not an open world game, guys. Neither is Mario Odyssey. This is a long overdue clarification. If DK Bonanza is an open world game, then so is Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie is not open world, but Banjo-Kazooie is set up just like Odyssey, and of course this game, Bonanza. So I don't want to hear people calling DK Bonanza, oh, open world DK. No, it's a Donkey Kong Banjo-Kazooie-like. And yes, I'm giving Banjo-Kazooie the nod because Rareware good, but also because Mario 64 didn't quite take it to that level of Banjo-Kazooie. Because as King K will tell you in an exasperated manner, Mario 64 kicks you out of the level as soon as you get a golden banana. There was no organic free roaming to go from mission to mission. It would kick you out and say, start this level over with a different objective. But Banjo-Kazooie set the template of that genuine freedom. And thus the unsung hero of Mario Odyssey is of course Banjo-Kazooie, and maybe a touch of ukulele. Now I'm recording this live in the studio, and I got the audience on the other side of the plexiglass, and I can see their chats. JJ says, upon the reveal of this game, before DK appeared, JJ thought it was a banjo game. Dude, there's even more Rareware flavor detected, even before the reveal of the character. There were those rock characters with the cute eyes, very much like Banjo-Kazooie characters, where it's like a feather with eyes or a book with eyes. So Odyssey is not open world, and even less so DK Bonanza, because when I was looking at the gameplay demos, looking at the 3D map of the level that you're in, it just makes it look like this really artificially constrained island with artificial barriers past which there's just nothing. How can I vibe with it as an open world entry if it's just a limited boundary island? At most, you can say that DK Bonanza is a Banjo-Tooie-like. And the reason Banjo-Tooie is a step above Kazooie, although it wasn't open world, it did have these sort of interconnected portals, so you could warp from world to world in certain geographic spots. But it's not an organic connecting of the different areas that they all interweave into each other. It's really just an artificial portal. If you want to know what an actual open world game looks like, look no further than Breath of the Wild or Grand Theft Auto. Now, what is the major difference between those games and something like Donkey Kong Bonanza and Odyssey? All the levels border each other, and they are all arranged and configured in an interconnected way. In Breath of the Wild, there's all the different areas, but there's so many different ways that you can travel between them, whereas by all appearances in DK Bonanza, they're just individual levels in the same way that you traveled between them in Mario Odyssey. Interestingly, canonically, the way that DK Bonanza is set up is that as you progress through the game to this and that level, you're actually digging deeper underground. So every level that you make it to, you're just diving deeper and deeper underneath the surface. I don't know how that plays into the whole sky thing. Maybe there'll be a tongue-in-cheek lamp shading and or a sensible in-universe reason why there would be a sky underground. But speaking of open-world games like GTA, the next concern with DK Bonanza is that some of the movement is automated. Now, it has been disclosed that in DK Bonanza, if you want to climb walls, to climb mountains and structures, you can do it. You have that freedom, which is cool, but the issue is it's all automated. You see a cliff, all you need to do is just hold the joystick up. And so you're just waiting for the animation to play itself out. Now, is it reasonable to expect a game like this to have actual climbing mechanics where you have to participate and strategize? I mean, for the record, Breath of the Wild has that. There's cool mechanics in there where it actually requires a bit of strategy based on your understanding of your current stamina meter. It's really cool that you can evaluate all these uniquely formed mountain structures and try to decide, do I have enough stamina to realistically make it up here? And if so, how much am I able to use the leaping mechanic to jump up and speed it up without getting too greedy that you run out of stamina and slide back down? But DK Bonanza is just hold up to win. And so as I look at this automated navigation mechanic, which is a step down in interactivity from Breath of the Wild, I start to get Shudder callbacks to L.A. Noire. I think the big issue with L.A. Noire that pundits pointed out was that after you interview someone, try to figure out what they're lying, you end up chasing them in hot pursuit. And most of the chasing you do is just automated because you automatically climb over this wall or that dumpster or whatever. You're just kind of waiting. It kind of feels like it plays itself. And even further in the automation mechanics in DK Bonanza is the idea that you can pound the ground to automatically, like magnetizedly collect all the items in your immediate vicinity. So look, I'm not saying that I'm in love with the collectathon mechanic where I have to walk right up to an object in order to grab it, but I also sort of wonder if this game is primarily centered around collecting items and you can collect a lot of them just by pounding the ground and absorbing them. Where's the gameplay? I really wish we were done talking about the superficial mechanics, but even in what they've shown in the Nintendo Treehouse, this game has press X to pay respects mechanics. Press R to subdue. I'm not about this. I'm here to actually do things, not to have an on-screen prompt say, press this button to do the thing. You walk up to a big purple rock, you sing to disarm the rock, and then you punch it to collect the item within. It's also very scripted and superficial. I'm not really playing a game where I'm asked to sing and then punch. I'm just walking up to an object and obeying the prompts. So superficial aspects aside, I do give Nintendo a lot of credit for really going for it with this. Clearly, it's an ambitious title. It's a title so ambitious with all its terrain mechanics that it doesn't run smoothly yet, as Botox Games played it at the Nintendo Switch 2 previews, and he said the dipping frame rate had him concerned. So when I hear reports of frame rate dips, I'm even less excusing of DK DK's running animations. What I don't like about it is how it so abruptly snaps from place to place. You know, you're running at full speed, and granted the running animations are perfectly fluid, but then when you come to a stop, it's like boom, you just stop on a dime. There's no cooldown animation. And this is 10 years after Metal Gear Solid 5. We cannot be now stepping back and trying to make this some kind of quasi-low frame rate style choice, when everything else in the world around you seems to be fluidly animated, but DK, the player character, just abruptly abandons any sense of animation and comes to an abrupt stop. So for the finale of part 2 of this video here, identifying the unfortunate aspects of DK Bonanza, I think the biggest hit or miss element, the biggest Rorschach test of whether this game will be a killer app for a given person or not, is of course the character animations and expression style. It's a bit jarring. I will admit that it is growing on me a little bit since the initial release to now, because when I first saw that DK Bonanza reveal, that first face that DK makes at the beginning where he sticks out his tongue, I was horrified. I was like, oh no, who approved this? Dude, it looks exactly like the horrifying Yo-Yo in Penny's Big Breakaway, with the scary teeth, the maniacal tongue, waving all over the place. In the audience, Demrupi says that tiresome face DK makes with his tongue out. Simply awful. And so a prominent barometer of determining whether a person is going to vibe with the character design style in this game is of course Turning Red and Luca, those recent Pixar movies that seem to go all in on a specific brand and style of teeth. Those teeth, I guess, have a market, even if it's not me. I just look at that wacky expression at the beginning and it just feels kind of tone deaf. And all the different jarring instances of teeth, I'm like, who is this for? Did Luca seriously make that much money? It went directly to streaming. And it's not only the wacky facial expressions, which on one level I can definitely give Nintendo for being brave enough to do something distinct, something that's a little less safe and more deliberately bizarre. But it's also the sort of Red Bull, maniacal, rapid light speed at all times. I look at the movie Turning Red by Pixar, and it's just, oh, we're here, we're over there, oh, I'm here, I'm there. Snapping all over the place. That kind of slapstick comedy is good in small doses, and even Toy Story movies have that. You all remember where Woody was inside a toilet bathroom stall, standing on the toilet paper, running on it as if it was a treadmill, and he was doing all these wacky Chris Farley maneuvers with his arms and legs. It's endearing. But this DK Bonanza is an overload of that. And for some people, possibly including me, that's enough to push it out of the killer app status. Because when you pair that with the sounds that DK makes, I'm just not into it. It's not a draw. I like Sonic sounds a lot better. When I played the Retro Studio DK games, you know, Returns and Tropical Freeze, I always had to grit my teeth through all of the grunts and just unappealing squeals that the player character would make, and it's back. I hope the next movie just has Seth Rogen doing Seth Rogen and laughing like he did in Pineapple Express. So look, maybe Nintendo has found its audience. Maybe Pixar's Turning Red is the new template for animation vibes moving forward. Now, in the studio audience, Demrupi says he enjoyed the original monkey noises DK would make, but since Mario Kart 8, they turned him into a human voice character. And honestly, I think back to Donkey Kong Country on the SNES, and the idle animation when DK was standing around, he would pound his chest like King Kong, and you guys know the sound that he makes in that game. I'm not going to do it now because I can't do it justice. But it's that good. I don't know why they had to go the weird manic human voice route. And so in closing part 2 now, when I look at the admittedly wide variety of character facial expressions, even in just what we've seen so far, I can applaud the effort, but I really just hope this is not another Mario Wonder situation where they allocate a greater piece of the pie in the budget to animation at the expense of what? We don't know. We'll find out when we play the game. But this game better not shortchange us on bosses, because all the dollars they used for the budget went to rendering DK's individual teeth. So, as we've now arrived in the final part of this video, part 3, I will now be delivering open world fanatics their sentencing, which will specify what they need to do in order to atone for this situation. So open world game fans, I hereby sentence you to walking back this expanded application of the term open world, because if DK Bonanza is an open world game, then Banjo-Kazooie is. If anything, DK Bonanza is a Banjo-Kazooie-like, which is awesome because Rareware, again, racking up these influential W's left and right. You want to know where modern Nintendo gets its gusto? England. I kid, but shout out to Rareware. They're awesome. Their legacy is felt, even if they're not getting ongoing acknowledgement or compensation. Looking at you, uncredited DK rap to Grant Kirkhope in the Mario movie, to say nothing of David Wise's song in there. And so I think the big takeaway for everyone here, in order to spiritually prepare for DK Bonanza, play some Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, because those games set the gold standard. Mario 64 didn't have that. It would kick you out as soon as you got a star. So in closing, this has been Alex Yard here at 91.6 WAYZ, the Alex Yard Zone, Internet Terrestrial Radio. As to whether I will be buying DK Bonanza? Oh god, no. I had more than my fill of Odyssey. I was really hyped for Odyssey, but when I finally got to play it, I was like, okay, there it is. You find a crack in a wall, you walk up to it, you break the crack with Cappy, collect your moon. There's so many millions of moons in that game that any one moon you get just doesn't hit as hard as a star in Mario 64. Or better yet, a Jiggy in a Banjo game. On second thought, maybe just stick to Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Tooie is way too big, way too much walking around. It's a little bit too big, with long stretches of barren areas. But when Nintendo is finally ready to make a true open-world game with Mario or DK, I would consider buying a Switch too. But that eventual true open-world game, actual open-world, better not take as long to produce as Metroid Prime 4. Get your mouse controls ready. Good night, everybody!